This is a recording for the CUPHAT project. My name is Matthew O'Brien. Today is the 11th of August 2023 and I have here with me Patrick Keogh. Thank you very much, Patrick. Can you confirm for the recorder that you're happy to take part in the project?
I can, yes. I have Patrick.
Great, thank you. And could you just spell your name for the recorder, please?
It's Patrick, and then Keogh, Keogh.
That's great, thank you. Could you just tell me a little bit about your early life then? When and where were you born and where did you grow up?
Yeah, well, I come from a farming background where there was 7 of us involved in the family. So I was, and initially was a farming area, a country area. So our ambitions were just what was in the area, time farming, or is that going to be a job, a technical worker or an ESB, something like that, ESB technician, P&T technicians. Yeah, but my ambition was to farm. Do you know what I mean as well? But and my father, there was 4 boys involved. One was an aircraft mechanic. One is working in university now. One married to a local shopkeeper as well. So my ambition was to farm. But my brother, who was farming as well, who was slightly older than me, so he had a home place. So that was my ambition. And my father was going to buy land. He hoped, like he had done in his generation, it was a farm bought for him. So he hoped to buy a farm, and I would farm full time. But unfortunately, the year I was in Archaeological college training for that, he died suddenly. So that threw our plans completely askew. So as a result, then I came home to farm, and I wanted to farm full time after agricultural college training. And my brother was there as well, and he was the oldest, and he was going to get a farm then, obviously, which was only right as well. So down the line, my mother left me 40 acres of the home place, and my brother got the balance of it. So I had 40 acres, and my ambition at that stage was to farm. I rented 30 acres of land as well, and the 30 acres I rented as well. So I developed that over 16 years. The land, I both reclaiming the land, because the land wasn't good land, and I reclaimed it and brought it to a standard I could, the highest standards I could bring it to. And the rented land as well, I actually trained and all that as well under the agreement with the landowner. So I was farming 70 acres, I was doing 20 acres of potatoes. That was my main crop, and I used to sell the potatoes all year round, and I used to sell it from where I'm operating my business now. So we've done that for 16 years. I was a certified seed grower, so I was able to sell seed as well. So, and I had a potato round in the shops in Tulloch, and I used to sell from the shop here as well. But my income from that wouldn't be sufficient, so I had to work as well. So I worked for a firm of accountants, IFAC, the name of the company, who records farm accounts. So I started with them at the same time I came home as well over the 16 years. And that gave me a great insight into people and a great training as well, because I was going into people's homes for the first time doing accounts. So it was a new thing for the farmers. That was all in my own area, like Jim. So I was going into farmers who I would have known or not known, and I was doing all the accounts for them, and I had to train them to do accounts because they never done accounts, and they were conscious of the revenue and conscious of everything. We started doing management accounts with the farmers first, and then the taxation system came in, so we started doing that, and then VAT came into it as well, so we started doing VAT returns. So I worked for that company for 16 years, the same time I was farming. So I was picking potatoes, selling potatoes one day of the week. Next day I was out with a briefcase going around to the farmers doing their accounts. So that life went on for 16 years, and I wanted to go into cows. That was my ambition, but you need a quota then to go into cows. The quotas had gone then, so I couldn't. My brother had the cows, and only rightly so. So I couldn't go into cows, and I brought the 70 acres as far as I could, and I had to make a decision. Do I want to try to keep farming, or do I want to go into a business? And we searched for years for some idea to come up with, read papers and looked for ideas, and then I realised, gosh, it's under my nose, my idea. Do you know what I mean? It's the potato shed. We'll convert that to a shop. I liked working with timber, and I'd be creative, I would think, and my wife is very into gardening, so we said, that's what we'll do. We'll set up a shop beside and convert and sell the machinery and convert it to a shop. We started that. I worked for 1 year, first case it wouldn't work out. Karma gave up her job as well. She worked at the same job, so she gave up her job. She came on full time. We took on one full time person. So in '94 we opened the shop selling garden furniture and indoor furniture. So we started to develop that over the next 30 years. We were lucky that we met some very creative local people that worked with us. Like we met somebody that was making garden furniture, but he was a real bad salesperson. He couldn't sell it. And we reckon we could sell for him if he made for us. So we started working with him, different designs and all. That worked really, really good. And he had 6 people working at one stage. And we designed our own furniture and indoor furniture. We were selling furniture as well here, indoor furniture. And then we had someone come in from England once and said, why don't you finish the indoor furniture yourself? So, oh, that's a good idea. So my wife and myself went to England. We done a short course on how to finish furniture, stain furniture, how to wax furniture and all. And we came back then and we built workshops for that. So we employed 6 people to finish the indoor furniture. So now we had a unique market. We could finish furniture, and we could finish indoor furniture, and we could make garden furniture. So people travelled down to us for these reasons as well. And it's such a unique centre. Initially we were embarrassed over the potato shed, thinking, oh, what people think of a shed. But then actually we realised just people like this shed, the quirkiness of them like it. So we kept that style. So we developed that over a period then. Over the next 30 years now. We'll be 30 years next April. In 94 we started the 1st of April, 94.
I'm just curious, do you have any stories about getting started, or what were the difficulties in getting started in this business? We
had no major difficulties because we had machinery to sell, and we sold the machinery, and we went to the banks with the idea, and we weren't borrowing big money, for it was only small money at the time, and we done a very good plan of what we wanted to do, and that went through very quickly with the banks. Now we had other problems banks down to the years, but that initial startup was not a problem. We had been retailing here for 16 years, selling potatoes and strawberries. We done strawberries as well. We grew strawberries as well. So that wasn't a major problem. We got the planning and all sorted and all as well. So once they were the biggest challenges as well. And we were enthusiastic. We were younger then, and we just could see no wrong. Just keep going. We kept building over the years. Like, we're lucky that we had a lot of creative people. My sister worked full time with. She was a flower arranger, and she used to do her own special flower arrangement for here in dried flowers. My sister-in-law was the secretary here, and she was great to it as well. Great lot of work to it as well. So we're lucky to have those people down to the years to help us make it.
And I know you now do quite a lot of events. Was that something that you always did as part of Rathwood?
Well, we started the initial idea. We have a train. The first train we got about 20 years ago, maybe 18 years ago, 20, and I loved the idea. We had an area that we could use the train in, and I wanted to get into the forest. So the train idea was a bit of a quirky idea, but it was actually the best idea we ever had. My sons they credit me with that's the best idea you ever had. You know what I mean? Getting the train, because the train when the crash hit in 2007 and 2008, like, we had the train set up, and people went back to focus on families that didn't go abroad, and they spent money on children and themselves. And so we developed that. Like, we started with 4,000 people going to see Santa in the woods, and we finished up at 46,000, and that was our cash flow. We were done over 100,000 people on the train. So now we were getting big numbers coming through, not big spend, but the numbers were adding up to a spend to keep the place going.
And you mentioned Christmas there. Could you tell me a little bit more about the seasonal elements of the centre here?
Well, Christmas is the biggest. We came up with the idea of the Santa in the forest, right? That was our own idea here. Now, since then, a lot of companies have done it, same thing as we've done. But we came up with the original idea of getting people on here, bringing them on a train to the forest in an organised way to meet Santa, and bringing them back then to the events. So that's the plan for Christmas. And then the other events, then we have Halloween. We do about 10,000 people. We change the team to Halloween, bring them on the train down to the big top as well. Same with Easter as well. Now after the pandemic, we had developed it more with the big top. We got the big top 2 or 3 years ago, and that has brought another experience. For Christmas, then it's more of a show now as well. Like, do you know what I mean, as well. And that has developed with the numbers. It brings numbers here because we are very remote here. We have to think of that. We have to have a reason. Before, we had no competition from the like of the multinationals, like, do you know what I mean, Aldi, Lidl, they hadn't happened yet. Do you know what I mean? IKEA hadn't happened. So, do you know what I mean? Now they're all there. So we have got massive competition for the retail. So we have to have events to bring people here.
And when did those events start? When?
They started about 20 years ago. After about 10 years, we started small time. I think it was 18 or 19 years ago, we started with the train idea.
And how closely connected is the centre here to the broader community?
Which we employ, we have 200 people here just at the moment working indirectly and directly as well. So any young person in this area, the majority of young persons in this area within a 10 miles radius have worked in that with students and so forth as well. So at Christmas time, Jeremy, we need a lot of people. We need about 100 elves at Christmas time when we're really busy with the Santa, and we need our Santa to help us, and we need Mrs. Claus as well to help us as well. So these are the things we need a lot of help from locals. These are all some of the people are doing some of these jobs are local farmers. They're doing it part time as well. Some of the train drivers now we need with 4 trains going, so we need an average. We're doing 7 days a week, so we need maybe 6 trains or 8 train drivers. And there are people that come every year to us, and some of them are farmers, and some are contractors. And it's a quiet time of the year, and they love the banter of each other and the mix. And so Touchwood, they'll come back for that as well to help us at that time. So it's all localised really. There's nobody coming in from a long ways away.
And how kind of involved would the centre be then in the broader community in terms of maybe initiatives, or are there anything like that goes on?
They have an art group that has an exhibition here. Say we have another group set up to Save Militia Hill, a local community they come here from as well. So you're entranced in the community because you're one of the communities. It's simple as that, you know what I mean? The park one will be one of the biggest initiatives for the community, because that was really I really like that one now as well, and that one brings an average of 100 people every Saturday morning here to the forest, the park run. That's the national thing, or international thing, I should say. So that brings a lot of people here. So and that brings every age group as well, and some people walk it even as well. So that's on tomorrow morning as well, on Saturday morning. So that is one a really good initiative, and it's healthy. And the forest is open all the time for people to run and walk, which are constantly doing. But the park run is one of the projects I like best, because, and then what happens is it's a social thing. People are doing 100 at a time, and they're doing it, and then they come back. A good percentage would come up here and have this room and the chaha after it, do you know what I mean? The room we're in at the moment, do you know what I mean? The Shadera room. So it's a social thing, it's a local thing, and that's why I enjoy doing and want to develop more and more.
So would Rathub then be a community hub?
It would be, have to be now, because the pubs are not what they were. We have 2 or 3 local pubs are closed now. So this is the hub now, the meeting place for people, and that's the way we want to have it as well.
And so just in terms of the kind of broader community, then you mentioned the pubs were closed. What other kind of services or facilities exist here?
We're very fortunate. There's one really good initiative, the local link. That is brilliant. Now, we thought this was a joke for us, a bus passing our place. It's just incredible. But my brother, as I was telling you, is home from Izmir in Turkey at the moment, and he has used this. He gave up his license because he doesn't need a licensing, so he wants to do this. But he's using that last week to go places. He finds this is brilliant. At our gate, imagine can't pick up in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, we're in Dublin by 9 o'clock. So it brings you to the buses, it brings you to the trains. But that has brought the whole connection here. That's a really good project for us here. So now we can tell, have you a bus service? Yes. And people are using that, and it's lovely to see people walking out with a good spot here and waiting for the bus.
And just in terms of when you were growing up, how does that differ now in terms of facilities and services? What existed in the area that maybe doesn't exist now?
Well, we had a lot of things in the area, and looking back, we had a great childhood. My father was involved in Machina Tuha then, and we were involved in that as well. And my father was a leader in that, so we had that. But that was very localised as well. We had that as well, and we had the local football club as well. Much the same things are there still, but it's wider as well. But there's a lot of pressures on young people now as well that we hadn't got. We'd have more of a simple life. Like the forest beside us, we would have went and played in that, used that. And probably that's why I like seeing people in the forest at the moment, using it more and more, because I would have done that, but not thinking as an organised basis. We just go to the wood, find cattle in it or something as well. So life hasn't changed. I see a lot more pressures on young people as well, but I see young people have great confidence now, which we hadn't got. We were never taught to be confident. We were taught to just survive. But young people now, and I see them here at 16 years of age, 17 years of age, we take them on at 16, and some could be here for 10 years now. A lot of them have gone on to do degrees and still work here, and then they went on to do masters and still work here, and more of them have came back now to work with on furniture. Do you know what I mean? They're sort of qualified. So that's a great achievement. Like, that's lovely to see that young people. And I see young people coming in at 16, and you could put them on the main reception below. Confidence. They just do it. You know, so confident. Majority of them, some not obviously, but majority of them are so confident, and that's lovely to see. And that's the advantage of the young as well here. And I can see them developing over the 10 years or 8 years they're here as well. And they go off to adults, and then they're coming back married, and then they come back with children, and now some have their children working here.
And to go back to your childhood for a sec, you said that you spent quite a bit of time outdoors. What would you have gotten up to?
Well, the wood was our playground really, as such. You know, it was as well. And then the Machna Tuatha was a great outlet for us going to having quizzes, having stock judging competitions was a big thing for us as well. You know.
And Machna Tuatha was a youth group.
Yes, it was like Machna Farma, only a younger group. I don't think it exists still. I don't think it does now. Machna Tuatha I'd call it now, but Machna Tuatha was then. But because my father was involved, and there's 3 or 4 areas here that were strong, and they were competing and dancing against each other, how dancing and discos and things like that. That's what was here then, like, you know. And
do you have any fond memories or particular memories of being involved with Machna Tuatha?
No, just meeting the girls and meeting, you know, the meeting that you're allowed to meet people and go on tours. They used to bring us out on a day tours as well, like, you know. And it was good. I never liked school, but I liked Machna Tuatha. School was too religious for me.
And when you were in school, or even after that, did you play sport?
I played some sport and not, but we had a problem in sport in the sense that we went to school in Tullow, the town, and we're from the parish out here, and the school in Tullow had a rule that wouldn't have anyone, only their own school could play sports in it, which is crazy. And my own area wouldn't let us play sports because we went to school in Tullow. Stupid rules then applied, and that was, we didn't play as much sport as we'd like to until we left school.
And what was the kind of social and community life like then when you were growing up?
Well, like the neighbours were always calling in and out, coming in as well. Do you know what I mean? And my mother was very religious, and we had to say the rosary before we went out every night as well. And religion was a big thing as well with us then. But it was, we knew all the neighbours. It were simple things we enjoyed looking back on it. Do you know what I mean? That you wouldn't enjoy now. That the kids don't enjoy maybe as much as the children. But we had simple lives. And like, we had no massive ambitions. I had no ambitions to set up a centre this big. I had no ambitions. Because I was a farming background, farming, I was channeled into farming, I think that's what I wanted to do. But I love working with cows, so I did at the time. And I've done that for so many years with my brother. But then we'd separate then as we had our own families and all, obviously, as well. But no, we had a happy child looking back on it. I didn't like school, but that's another thing, because the monks weren't nice to me, the Christian brothers. And I didn't like that. I still don't. I get annoyed when I think of that. Sorry.
And obviously you remained in the area. Did a lot of people that you went to school with, or people you knew from the area, did they stay, or did they?
They did. A lot stayed then. You know, the previous generation would have went, but our generation would have stayed in the area, yes.
And what, I mean, when you say the previous generation, what was the motivation for them maybe leaving?
Well, they had no employment at all. You know, like the 60s or whatever it was. Like, a lot of I have uncles in England. My wife has aunts. A lot of them have died now, but a lot of them went to England as well. So there's only 1 or 2 stayed at home. But now our generation, they stayed at home. They will be still here. Or they just moved around Ireland somewhere, but not out of the area.
And what type of work did people from the area typically do?
Farming.
It was all farming?
Farming, yes. Farming.
Mixed farming, or was it?
It was mixed farming mostly, because it was mixed farming. And now it's gone more intensive, obviously. But it was mixed farming then, like, and small farms as well. It was all nearly farming. There was very little other than farming.
And you mentioned that your memories of farming were quite happy.
Yes. Tractors, pulling around the tractors in summertime, like, you know what I mean, and driving tractors. And, you know, there's no safety issues then thought about even then, like, you know. But the tractors were small, and, you know, I mean, there's no danger. So there was 7 of us in as well, so that probably helped as well, like, you know, as well.
And did you have a favourite thing to do on the farm?
No, we always you have your own jobs, like when you come home from school, which you hate doing sometimes. You have to feed the calves, or you have to feed feed animals, or you do it. I used to like working with cows, and with my father working with cattle, like working with lifting the cows and all that. I like that, but just general farm work.
And how would you describe this area to someone who's never been here before?
Well, it's a very farming. First of all, it was a very farming area. Not maybe as much now. There's a lot of because we're near Tullow here. There's a lot of industries in Tullow and around Tullow, like some very big employers. And there's one employer down the road. It's not Kerry Foods. It was Kerry Foods, but there's 900 people working in a factory in Shillelagh. So that's a small area. So that's a big employer. There's no shortage of employment in this area at the moment. Do you know what I mean? But there's a big influx of people. Like we would have never seen foreign people coming in. And that's happening now, which is good, because we were very, we used to our own people as such, and not mixing with the in the community, and that's it. Now that has mixed, and the having to marrying as well. That's changing now, so it is, with the influx of foreign people coming in, which is good. And we have a lot of foreign people here working with us, and we wouldn't survive without them as well. And they're our friends, and their children are working here, and some have come in, and now their next generation are working here for us as well. So that has changed drastically, but we were very. We were just focused on a small area in farming only, that area only, and we didn't think outside of the box. I didn't want to go anywhere else outside the box.
And did you have any kind of maybe seasonal or otherwise traditions on the farm?
Not really. We just took them as normal. We didn't, you know what I mean? The trashing thing was before my time, so I don't remember that. You'd always loved making the hay, and you smell of it, like, you know what I mean? Cutting the corn. Now the silage making as well. When we were students, we were always asked to help, but we had to help the neighbours making silage. Do you know what I mean? That was we always thought it was fun as well, like, you know, making silage. And we always enjoyed that. You know, we sprung silage or driving tractors or something like that as well. We always felt part of something, like, and it was a real buzz in go like as well.
And were there any major kind of local celebrations or festivals when you were maybe a child that you partook in, or that you went?
I don't remember, would you believe, any major ones. I can't think now. There were probably small things, but the church was the only thing you'd have, and the sports day once a year here. That'd be the only thing we'd have. Nothing big other than that.
And did your family have any interest in local history or the area?
My father and mother hadn't, to my knowledge, but my father died young, as I was saying, so my mother was rearing 7 children, so I did. But my family now, my brother, who lives locally, he has big interest in tracing relations, and he does all the family trees, done all that. He's really big into it as well. And my brother, that's in Izmir in Turkey, he works in the university, and he is really into history as well. He has done all but he goes back. He's into hill forts, and when he comes home now, he spends all the time going to universities in Dublin, and all that. So he has big interest in it now as well. And my younger son, then he is big into nature, into sowing trees, planting and all as well, which is great. Even though he lives in Dublin now as well, but when he comes down, he's very passionate about not touching the trees, not touching them as well, which is good. And
is that passion then carried forward to Rathwood here?
Yes. He's very definite. He owns Rathwood as well now, my other son, and they're very definite to keep this going. He would be very more definite to keep it as it is. Do you know what I mean? Nearly too much so, maybe sometimes. They're not making. He has to make it commercial to survive as well. But he would be very passionate about it as well. So I'm confident the next generation is going to follow on that as well.
And you mentioned as well the park run. Give me an idea as to what you might see on that park run.
Well, what I see is families, which is the most important. I see people walking, maybe taking an hour to walk it, and they're finished after everyone else, like, you know. But the beauty is you're timed and recorded, you do it. Now, there's someone there last week that had done 100 park runs, and they were celebrating. They were really, and she was a young person, 100 park runs. You get enjoyment of someone saying that it's me 100, I'm doing 100, and the park run people are that's not organised by me. I help, but it's a community based separate, so I can't get involved in it. But I can help, but I can't get in running, and I don't want to. But they would have little celebrations for that person, or have a cake up here or something like that in the restaurant for them after. So that's what I like. I love seeing people in the wood. I drive the train as well. We have the trains are showing you now as well, and I enjoy driving the train as well, because when you're driving the train, people are waving at you, and everyone's in good humour, and you're waving back, and you feel. And then you're talking to them when they're sitting on the train. Now, I was saying to you earlier on there that we had an active retirement group from Dublin. There's 32 of them. I brought them on the train on Monday last, and they really loved it. But I love having them as well. and they just love doing the simple things like feeding the deer, like feeding the ducks, and in the forest as well. But sometimes it's hard to get them on the train. But when you get them on the train, they love it. And the older the person, if there's a very old person here, maybe in their 90s, and they don't know, I wouldn't go, and that's so I say, come on here, I'm going to bring you, you're going to be my guest this time coming. And they come afterwards and they thank you, and they shake your hand sometimes. I really love that, brought me back to my youth. That's where I get value, that's where I get a kick out as well.
And would you have ever spent much time, or do you indeed spend much time walking in the Wicklow Mountains?
Yes. I've done I have a small walking group of 8 people that are semi-retired like myself, or two farmers, two shopkeepers actually, and there's 8 of us, and every year we have a walking group and we meet for the summertime. Now we've walked the Wicklow Way, which is 128 kilometres. We've done that 4 times. So we meet midsummer and we walk it. Now we do walking as well. I'm doing the Camino now separate. I'm doing that now at the end of September. So yeah, but we walk regularly, and I walked the wood this morning, the 5k walk to the wood this morning as well. So walking is big with me. And do you know what I mean? But the group I have, we have a social, which is kind of a social group. We go for maybe one drink after, finish up in the pub and have a chat with walking as well. We normally do around 14 to 16 kilometres in an even time. So we have a walking group, and we do it regularly. But Wicklow is amazing for walks. It's amazing. The nicest walk I've ever done is the Wicklow Way. And this section along here where we are, do you know what I mean, in South Wicklow is to me is nice as well as anywhere.
And give me an idea of that trail. What might you see along the way, or what?
Well, it's a rustic trail, and a lot of people do it. It's a very commercial thing as well, but you'll see you can see wild deer. There's stunning views. You can get rain. You can get drowned in it. Like, do you know what I mean? We done the Glendalough walk, the Spink walk as well. It rained constantly on us. We got drowned, so we did. But you come home refreshed or something. Have we done that? It's brilliant. So it's an achievement as well. But walking is lovely. It's fabulous seeing you right on this. I know this.
And when, with the walking group you're involved, when did that get started?
And we do it every year. We do it in June, July.
And have you been involved in it for a number of years?
Yes, I run it. So I run that group. We had 10 years now, or maybe 11. 10 years, I guess. Yeah.
And could you tell me a little bit about maybe the kind of state of nature in the Wicklow Mountains?
Well, it's all the nature as it was. A lot of forestry now come into it as well. So the forestry is now there's nobody doing biodiversity in it to my knowledge, but it's there anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's so natural as well. The forestry used to clear for all at one stage. Now that has stopped. Now they do it in sections, and it's more in harmony with the environment as well. But it's lovely. You'll see foxes, you'll see any animals you want. Do you know what I mean? You just keep your eyes peeled for it as well. But you see the nature, and you just see the stunning views of stunning colours as well at different times of the year as well. Wicklow Way is a fabulous walk. I think it's a great achievement. Anyone should do it.
And what do you think are some of the most important, maybe plants, animals, or habitats within the Wicklow Way?
I wouldn't be into the names of everything, unfortunately, but I'd know the animals. But even though I have deer here on my own, and I have deer, but I love seeing wild deer. I love seeing wild deer when I'm walking because of something. And you see the sheep as well. Not wild sheep, but the weather, we'll say, and they're out there. You know that they're not. So just like to see life in it, but the views are the most important thing as well. The views to me is.
And are you aware of any kind of maybe local folklore or indeed superstitions within kind of the immediate area or the broader kind of Wicklow Mountains?
But this area, there was always superstitious years ago, do you know what I mean, as well, and we're always afraid of it because we had the light was only coming in then, do you know what I mean, at the ESB and all that as well. But my own home place where my father bought, it was always supposed to be haunted. But my father bought it still, but we never seen any ghosts in it at all. But it was always haunted, and that's why the people said they sold it, because it was haunted, which is silly. But we never seen anyway. But we were, as kids, we'd be afraid. I remember going down. We used to get buttermilk from the neighbours, and we had to go through the fields to get it. Like, do you know what I mean? And there was an old man there. He's dead now, and he was a devil. He'd write stories to tell you about ghosts and all. And when we were coming home across the fields, we'd be scared of our life, looking up in the trees and all as well. But he was only messing with us, you know, telling us these stories. But we would believe them then, and we were actually coming home scared, not badly scared now, but you would be scared as well.
Were there any particular stories that you remember?
I can't offhand I think of it at the moment, but do you know, it was different stories, but you'd be looking up in the trees and you wonder was the ghost in that tree or something as well, and you'd be going home fast after collecting the buttermilk.
And are there any kind of do you think there's been any change to the kind of natural landscape in your time living here?
Oh, big time, yeah, big time. A lot of farming has, and myself is included, when I had the land as well, like, you know, I had 40 acres back, you know, 46 years ago, and my plan then was to put into grass to get maximum use out of it as well. So I cut lovely trees down, and I had, looking back on it, I didn't realise what I was doing. I put into agriculture, and would have done a lot of damage, as, you know, people would have done it then as well. That was now my mind has changed. Now I'm back planting, do you know what I mean? But I was like everybody doing it. But a lot of farmers clear, you know, as well. And looking back on it now, that was too extensive, like, do you know what I mean? And some we have to change, and we are changing hopefully as well. And I think farmers in general, and landowners in general, should say, not farmers, are more aware, and getting more aware. Every day we are of the environment, like, do you know what I mean? We didn't think of it like that. We just think of clearing, do you know, and think of get the animals out, get the foxes, and all clear. Now that's gone.
And
this area was owned by the Coastal estate. Okay, as you asked about history, this area was owned by the Coastal estate, and they owned it, Wentworth in England, and Coastal was their holiday home. They built in Coastal. Now they had 80,000 acres here, and they had a railway station built, a railway line built to it as well. So this area was under it, in the Wicklow end of it, and it just finished here, like, as well. But I remember years ago now, and I just think of it, you know, they had, so Coastal owned it here, so they were all tenants, everyone was tenants, and the bigger house, they looked after the tenants and so forth as well. My parents would be one of those tenants as well, like, you know, as well. And then they used to come over from England to hunt the foxes, like, you know what I mean? And they had certain areas in our forest beside us which are still there, which are fox covers, which is maybe 8 acres designated for fox only. No one allowed to farm it, anything like that. There was a wall around it, a mark around it, and they would rear foxes in that area. Not rear initially. They would have the dig dens, from we say, in the forest, and they have the header there that the foxes like, so the foxes would be always in there. And then they paid the local farmers, a local farmer, when the fox goes out at night time. The fox goes out every night, and they put a stone blocking off the fox, so he can't get back in. So the hunt comes the next day, and they have foxes out in the wild, so they start hunting. You know, this would be the gentry as well, and they start normally just at the edge of Wicklow here, which we are, and the fox covers are covered, and they hunt back then to Coastal, which is Shillelagh first, and then they might go on to Tinnahealy, and that would be the hunt. Now that fox cover, 6.8 acres in the middle of our forest at the moment, and that's still there, and that's intact as well. So it is, and that's what we have access to as well. So that's there at the moment. You can see all the earths in it as well. So I'd love to, my plan with the wood development is to develop that as well, as is, to tell the history of that as well. But I remember that. I remember the hunts. But now I was coming near the end of it. I remember my father, they would follow the hunt then. So, and they had access to the land, the hunts, you know, they can just go over anyone's land. So around here there's local gates. You see the gates are still there, little hunts gates that the foxes go through, not the foxes, sorry, that the horses go through and they go through. So they're still there, and they're visible there still as well in this area. So my memory of that with my father following on foot the horses.
And are there any other kind of remnants of the Coastal estates kind of reach within the broader area here?
Well, the village of Shillelagh is an example of it, like, you know, and Wentworth in England, I was never in it. My brother was going there shortly as well to look at, but to say here's a smaller version of Wentworth, you know, as well. So they would have built Carnew, the village of Carnew, they would have built Shillelagh. If you drive through Shillelagh, you can see all the houses. They owned all the land here as well, and they owned the schools as well. What it landed, you know, they might give the land to the church, they might own the land still. So in the last few years, when, say, the local school is Ballyconnell, they went to put a school, extend the school, and realised, and they were given the council land to extend it, but they didn't realise they had the deeds, because Coastal had the deeds. So they had everything, they owned everything here as well, but they didn't clear up, selling off properly to clear the deals, and only now is being to clear.
And tell me a little bit more about the wood development project here.
Well, we have the wood beside us here. It's originally a quilcher wood. It was first planted in I think it was 56 or 57, and then they clear felled that in 2000, and they replanted it then as well. Now it's a low-lying forest. They tell us it's not that valuable a forest because it's too low-lying and slow growing. And we went about, maybe it was 15, 20 years ago, we went about development. Could we develop walks into it, which quilcher, and under the neighbourhood watch scheme came in on board as well, and quilcher, and we jointly developed my 15 acres here in conjunction with the forest there, which was half the forest, which is so we put a 2.5k walk into it, you know, and developed that, and we had car parking as well, and that's really available for the last 15-20 years for people to walk through as well. Now, in the last maybe 5 or 6 years ago, then we went back to them again, asked them could we develop the walk further into the wood. So they agreed to do it, and we co-funded ourselves, no grant aid, and quilcher, and we developed another 2.5k. So now we have a 5k walk that people are free to walk every day. Now we maintain that under a license agreement with quilcher as well. That's where we're at the moment. Now we have started. We want to develop the forest, to re-wet it, to rewild it, and bring back more nature into it, and see can we work with forestry on it. So we have drawn up a plan ourselves, and we've gone at the moment. We've asked the company Viron to do the plan. They've done the plan in conjunction with ourselves, and we're at the moment negotiating with quilcher. Will they come in on this project, and will they work on us to develop the whole, say, 200 acres of the forest? And that would be a fabulous project that I would love to do. You know, my final project I'd like to do, but that's where we're at the moment, and that would be rewilding it. We've started doing bits ourselves, and we own 45 acres of it, and we've a lot of that done with that ourselves. You know what I mean? We've thinned it out, we've exposed all the hardwood trees that grow wild in 20 years, and we exposed those, say the oak and the ash that's down there. So we've cut all the trees around it so they will grow, and they're sprinkled through it as well. So we have a nice sprinkle of hardwood and softwood in it as well. So that's what we're at the moment. But we're hoping this project, it'll take time, maybe 2 or 3 years time we'll be starting that project, but it's a big project, an expensive project, and we want to do all the surveys and all first on it as well.
And how important is that to you?
Well, it's like that's the final link of everything. I think if we get that done, the final link at the whole area. Once that's done, it's there for life. It's my achievement, what we've done, or our achievement, what we've done here for the area, like as well.
And how would you describe the sense of community and local life in this area?
No, it's very strong, the community life here, because we're in a country area here, maybe more so we know all the families as well. There hasn't been much change because there's not much planning allowed in this area. So basically, we know the families as well. So I have a strong football club, a GAA club. My brother's he's over that. And we have a lot of clubs, ICA clubs, my sister's involved in that. So there are clubs like that, small clubs then as well.
And how much would you consider yourself to be from the Wicklow Mountains? What kind of significance does that hold for you?
Well, I feel I don't get involved. My brothers and sisters are great at getting involved in community things. I don't, because I haven't the time. But I feel that doing this, I'm getting involved in the community by developing the forestry, by developing the woods here and all as well. I feel I'm doing my bit for the area that will be always here as well. So I get an achievement out of that, but I don't meetings other than setting up the initial meeting to develop the neighbourhood watch scheme. We still come in for that. Other than that, I find I'm working all the time, so I don't have time. But if I'm by doing these other projects, I feel I am contributing to the community as well.
And what does it mean to you to be from an upland area?
Well, I suppose as I get older now, I'm 66 now. As I get older, I appreciate more and more. But when I was younger, I didn't appreciate the views we had here. I didn't appreciate the views from Mount Leinster, Howell. I cleared all trees. Do you know what I mean? But my whole attitude has changed now. So, do you know what I mean? I didn't realise how nice an area until we started going outside of it, how nice our area was and what we have here as well.
And are there any particular sites or locations that have particular meaning to either you or the area?
The Ratgall site, obviously.
Tell me a little bit about that.
That's an ancient fort there, do you know what I mean? It was excavated in 1979, 78. So it was Barry Rafferty was the professor doing it. All that's logged in as well. It's a Bronze Age site. It's intact perfectly, believe it or not. It's one of the best intact bronze sites in the area, in the country, sorry. So it is. And now it was owned by the Land Commission, and there was problems with the landowner. That's solved. Now it's owned completely by the OPW, and they have, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, they put in a fabulous car park, and they maintain it really, really well, as perfect as it could be. So that would be the biggest project in the area. People travel all over Ireland and the world to see that project as well, and we're at the base of it here. So part of that is the history here as well. Do you know what I mean? There's a wedge tomb. My brother was telling me just a short distance away as well, where the burial ground part of Ratgall, it's about 5 to 6 kilometres away in the hills opposite. But that's important as well. They're the historical sites. I think the Ratgall site is just an amazing site. It's an amazing site.
And if I had a group of tourists and I wanted to bring them somewhere within the kind of area, where would you recommend?
Well, see, first of all, I'd find out what that tour is like. We'd be maybe a group that have no interest in the Ratgall site. It's a waste, like, do you know what I mean? But then if you had that group, like we had a group last week, I said there, I was doing an active retirement group, I know they'd love just to go on the train, so I'd bring them on the train, do you know what I mean, as well. And Altamont is another fabulous garden owned by WW inside the Carlow border. I would send them there as well, do you know what I mean. But you'd have to be interested in archaeology to go to the Ratgall sites to get the value of it as well. So you'd never send somebody that would not be interested in that as well.
And what do you think are the kind of current threats to, I suppose, natural heritage in the Wicklow Mountains?
Well, I think it's been so near Dublin, there's a lot of, I can't see any major, I think people now appreciate and will hold the value of it, and I can't see it as big a threat as it was with land reclamation and all. That won't happen anymore. And people realise the rewilding, they see the problems in the news every night. So I don't think there's any major problem to that, as long as we get the basics right. In the land here, not over farm it, over. They're the things we need to get right, which we will get right, I think, in time as well. Like, you know what I mean?
And we mentioned tourism there. I just wanted to go back to it. How would you view the current state of tourism in the Wicklow Mountains?
Well, to me, at the moment, it's from our point of view of the business here, it's very quiet at the moment. Do you know what I mean? It's quiet because we haven't got the tourists, and the reason is we need hotels to send us business. We need the B&Bs to send us business. And there at the moment, a lot of them are probably have problems with staff. Obviously, staff shortages, but there are a lot of them are on wedding mode. So they're trying to catch up in the weddings. So they're having time, and the weddings are the profit for them, obviously. So they're on wedding mode, so they're not taking in the tourists as much. A lot of the B&Bs during the pandemic, they realised, God, life is not worth this. Will we bother doing this anymore? No, we're not going to do this anymore. So a lot of them have given up on that, like, as well. The only good trend is pods are coming in. People are starting to get pods, that's a nice trend now. There's 3 or 4 people in this area doing pods, so that's good. But accommodation is the biggest problem. And then also staff problems ourselves. Like people don't want to do the hours. There's only a 3.5% employment in the country, so you can see people have choice. So it's very hard to get people to work in this business as well. So you're struggling, with chefs. You're struggling all along every day. You're filling in. Do you know what I mean? In it, that's the biggest stress in the short term.
And if there was, go ahead.
Accommodation would be the biggest one at the moment. We haven't got accommodation in this in upland Wicklow area. We haven't got enough accommodation. Definitely, that would be the biggest.
And if there were to be increased tourist numbers, accommodation would be the kind of
big time, yeah. And I think the council in Wicklow realised that as well, and they tell us that anyone wants for planning for hotels and like that, if they did, there'd be no problem. But we have no big hotel. Brook Lodge in the middle of Wicklow is the nearest hotel. then you're down into Wicklow, into Wexford, sorry, for hotels, and into lower end of Wicklow, but not enough. Accommodation is the biggest problem.
And would any of the kind of challenges or benefits play out in the context of Rathwood?
You see, at the retail as well, the challenge is like, you have Amazon building some there in Rathcoole, twice the size of Croke Park. How can a retail outlet compete against that? Like, that's our challenge. Like, when we started up here, I was saying before, we had no Aldi, Lidl, Tesco's. Now we have Tesco, we have Aldi, we have Lidl, all the multinational, and they have such power over people like as well. So we have to find retail. What can we survive in retail? So the entertainment is where we can survive. The woods, where we bring people that's there. So people come for a day leisurely, and hopefully they'll buy X amount. They won't buy the volumes they're done as well. But they're the biggest challenges. A lot of smaller shops are closing obviously as well. So that's because they can't compete with the multinationals. And the multinationals have such power, as well. And and they're so tuned into what's happening with the trends and all as well, that the smaller shops can't compete with that as well.
And what do you think the community perception of tourism might be?
No, people love the tours. They like people coming in. They love mixing with people and seeing people as well. So they're in this area anyway. Like, they're very proactive about wanting people in the area and seeing people in the area, because it's employment for their own people and maybe their relations as well. So.
And what role do you think upland communities can play in developing tourism?
Well, you'd hope that they would, if there's going to be Welsh examples as well, that the Welsh would see what we're doing, and we would see what they're doing, and we learn from them, and they hopefully learn a bit from us as well. So that would be the advantage of it as well. That it gives people a more positive to see it. It's like having a good example of a business going, that we're thinking about outside of the box as well. It's like having a business forum of business people. We're talking together now, and we're getting enthusiasm from each other. And that's a meeting that's important as well. That's new ideas as well. We had a group, I think I said before, a Welsh group set up before. They were coming into Wicklow, and they came. This is back maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And they came here, and I just can't think. It was a Welsh group as well, and they were very passionate Welsh speakers, because we went for meals when they came over as a business group first, and they'd done the tour. They came to our place here. They came to the chocolate garden next door as well. So they did, and they set up, and the plan was, they were like-minded businesses in Wales, and their plan was they bring over groups here as a tourist. And one of the group people came. There was a tour operator, women, and he started up the project of coming to this. We went for a meal first of all with him one night, and they sang and all for us. There was great connections with him and all. Then they went home, and they started up the connection, and we got one or two buses coming from him, just as day trips, and we thought this was great. Then the Foot him out here, I think it was then. What's it, Foot him out? No, the pandemic hit, or the recession hit then, and it died, and we lost the connection as well. But that had started back years ago.
And what's the best thing about living here?
Well, it's good and bad. I like the walks. I like walking. I like being the freedom out in the woods, because it was rare that way, and I like looking over my home place, and being in my home family and all that locally as well. That's the good parts as well. But my son is married in Dublin now, and he lives in Dublin, and we like going up to him as well, and everything's so near you. The shops are near as well, so there's pluses and minuses and all as well.
And if you could change one thing about the area, what might that be?
It can be very concentrated farming, so it can be, and it's a little bit too concentrated farming. Sometimes people don't realise what they're doing in the area to other people, as well. They don't realise because they look as if they're farmers and they're always here, so they don't think of tourists maybe, or don't think of other people as much as well. So if you could change that with his changing actually, the perception of it as well.
And what challenges do you think that the area will face in the kind of short and long-term future?
The short term is we're lucky in the sense that we've developed a very strong online business, and that's what's funding our wages at the moment. The online business, not the retail shop. It's the online business. We're funding that as well. So we're lucky to have that, So we hope to develop that more. But it's going to be a big challenge to keep the shop going, to keep the shop the enthusiasts to work hard to work as well. So it's a big challenge because the multinationals have such power over the buying that there's very little spend left for us to take as well.
And just in closing, Patrick, what does it mean to you to be from and living in this area?
Well, listen, I feel I've achieved something by developing developing this business, and I feel this business, especially the forest, will keep going always, as well. And that's my achievement. I feel like that'll always be there, and I've done something for life. I've done something. I've achieved something. That's only me, but that's the way I feel. I've done it for the community as well. And when my own family look back and my grandson look back, granddads and grannies to help this business, and still here, we can go to the woods as well. So that's what I hope people say in 30 years time, 40 years time, that I've contributed to this area. I've done my bit, in other words, as I said.
And is there anything else that we haven't discussed that you'd like to mention?
Offhand, I just can't think of it now. Probably when you're gone, I will think of something as well.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much, Patrick. I appreciate it. And I'll just stop the recording now.